I'm Olivia Anderson, 34, and I've built a life most people only dream of. As co-founder and COO of PathPulse, a logistics tech company in Austin, Texas, I spend my days turning chaos into clarity, designing systems that save cities and companies millions by predicting the fastest, cheapest routes for deliveries. My office overlooks the Colorado River, all glass and steel, buzzing with coders and dreamers who call me boss. But last week, a single text from my little brother, Ryan, reminded me of a different world. One where I'm not a leader, not a visionary, just a name left off a guest list at IT. Was a Tuesday morning, my inbox already overflowing when my phone buzzed. Ryan's message was casual, almost an afterthought. Hey, just a heads up, Mom's birthday dinner's this weekend at Sullivan's Grill in Raleigh.
Kind of a close family thing.
Hope that's cool.
Close family.
The words hit like a paper cut, sharp, quiet, but impossible to ignore. I'm the eldest daughter, the one who remembers Mom's favorite tea blend and Dad's old fishing stories. Yet, somehow, I wasn't close enough for Ellen Anderson's 60th birthday. I stared at my phone, thumb hovering over the keyboard. I typed, "Did you mean to exclude me?" Then deleted it. Typed again, deleted again. Finally, I sent, "Got it. Thanks for the heads up." No reply came. Not from Ryan. But 2 hours later, my sister Claire texted, "Let's not make this about you, Olivia." That was it. No explanation, no softness. Just a door slammed shut through a screen. Claire's my younger sister, 31, a librarian in our hometown of Cary, North Carolina. She's got 2 boys, a messy divorce behind her, and a knack for posting sunlit family photos with captions like, "Blessed beyond measure." Growing up, we were close, braiding each other's hair, sneaking cookies from Mom's jar. But when I left Cary at 22, something broke. I wanted more than small-town potlucks and predictable Sundays. I had a laptop, a duffel bag, and a one-way ticket to Austin. Mom packed me a peanut butter sandwich for the flight. Dad just nodded from the porch. Claire stayed, married her high school sweetheart, and built a life that looked like the one we were raised in. I thought she'd understand my need to leave, but to her, it felt like I'd chosen ambition over family. In Austin, I clawed my way up. I waited tables at a diner off 6th Street, coded in coffee shops until my eyes burned, and lived in a studio so small the shower was practically in the kitchen. I took night classes in data science, pitched ideas to skeptical investors, and co-founded PathPulse with a grad school friend and a former delivery driver who believed in my vision. We built software that shaved millions off shipping costs, and soon, city planners and CEOs were calling. Tech blogs called me a rising star. But back in Cary, I was still Olivia who does something with computers. Dad would shrug when asked, saying, "It's over my head." Mom sent polite texts about my articles, but never asked about my world.
Claire?
She barely responded, even when I sent onesies for her boys or gift cards for birthdays. That text from Claire stung because it wasn't new. It was a confirmation of what I'd felt for years. I'd been erased, not forgotten. Forgetting is an accident. Erasing takes effort. I closed my laptop, the hum of PathPulse office fading as I sat with that truth. I wasn't going to beg for an invitation, but I wasn't going to stay silent either. Something about being shut out like that, it demands an answer. By that evening, I'd booked a flight to Raleigh. Not to fight, not to prove a point, but to show up as the woman I'd become, not the girl they'd left behind. The next morning, I woke up with a knot in my chest, the kind that coffee can't loosen. Claire's words, "Let's not make this about you," kept looping in my head. I wanted to call her, to ask why my own family thought I didn't belong, but I knew she'd dodge or deflect. Instead, I poured my energy into PathPulse. We had a big pitch coming up with the city of Austin, new routing models for their transit system, and I couldn't afford to lose focus. But as I reviewed code in my office, my mind drifted back to Cary, to the family I'd tried so hard to hold on to. When Claire's marriage to her high school sweetheart, Matt, fell apart, I was the first to know. Not from her, but from Mom, who called me late one night, her voice low. Claire was drowning. Her car payments were late, her credit was trashed, and she was too proud to ask for help. I didn't hesitate. I wired $10,000 to her account that same night, no questions asked. I didn't expect a parade, but I thought maybe she'd call, say something. She didn't. A month later, I saw her Instagram post, a photo of her boys in front of that same car, caption reading, "New chapter, new roads." Thankful. No mention of me. No text. Just silence. That wasn't the first time. When her oldest, Ben, was born, I sent a stroller and a stack of picture books. Mom thanked me. Claire sent a one-word text. Thanks. When her youngest, Lucas, came along, I sent a gift card. Same deal. I told myself it was fine, she was busy, a new mom, stressed. But deep down, I knew it wasn't about busyness. Claire saw my life in Austin as a rejection of hers. To her, my success, my late nights coding, my meetings with mayors, my name in headlines, was a spotlight that made her feel small. And instead of talking, she built a wall, brick by brick, with every gift I sent, every call she didn't return. Mom and Dad weren't much better. Mom would call to chat about her garden or the church bake sale, but when I mentioned PathPulse, her voice would soften, like she didn't know what to say. "That sounds nice, honey," she'd murmur, then pivot to Claire's boys or Dad's fishing trips. Dad was worse. He'd scoff, saying things like, "You're too big for us now, huh?" I'd laugh it off, but it hurt. They didn't see the nights I cried in my tiny apartment, wondering if I'd made a mistake leaving. They didn't see the investors who dismissed me because I was a woman or the loans I barely paid off. They only saw the version of me that didn't fit their world. By Wednesday, I was restless. The flight to Raleigh was booked, my navy blazer was pressed, and I'd tucked an envelope into my suitcase. 2 first-class tickets for Mom to see the Grand Canyon, a dream she'd mentioned over coffee when I was a kid. I didn't know if she'd still want it, but I remembered. I always remembered. As I packed, I felt a mix of anger and resolve. I wasn't going to let their silence define me. I'd show up, not to beg for a seat, but to remind them I never really left. Thursday morning at PathPulse started like always, early, intense, no nonsense. We run lean, and our weekly stand-ups are all about clarity. What's working, what's not, who's on what. I was halfway through my notes when Sarah from HR pulled me aside. "Your noon onboarding's got 6 new hires," she said, handing me a folder. "One's from North Carolina. Nathan Carter. Says he's got a background in civil engineering, switched to data analytics last year." The name rang a bell, faint but persistent, like a song stuck in your head. Then it hit me. Nathan, Claire's boyfriend. I'd seen him in her Christmas posts, standing by her tree in a plaid shirt, arm around her, smiling softly. Her captions called him steady and kind, the kind of guy our town loves, dependable, quiet, safe. I didn't know he'd applied to PathPulse, let alone made it through our hiring process. At noon, I walked into the conference room. All glass walls and whiteboard scribbles. 6 new hires sat around the table, nervous but eager, clutching pens and notepads. I scanned the group, landing on Nathan. He had a clean haircut, a pressed shirt, and eyes that widened when I introduced myself. "Good morning. I'm Olivia Anderson, co-founder and COO of PathPulse. Welcome aboard." Nathan's pen froze midair, his jaw tightening just enough to notice. He didn't speak for the entire session, just nodded as I walked them through our mission, cutting waste, streamlining cities, making movement smarter. When the others left for HR paperwork, he stayed behind, shifting in his seat. "Ms. Anderson?" Olivia," he started, hands in his pockets. "I didn't realize it was you. Claire never said you ran this place." "She doesn't talk about me much," I said, keeping my tone light but steadied. He nodded, almost to himself. "Is it weird? Me working here, I mean." "Only if you make it weird," I replied, offering a half smile. He laughed, the tension easing. "Fair enough. I really wanted this job. What you're doing here, it's incredible." "Then focus on that," I said. "You'll fit in fine." He smiled, genuine, and walked out. For the first time, I felt a crack in the wall between my 2 worlds. Someone from Carrie, from Claire's life, was standing in my office, seeing me not as the sister who left, but as the woman who built something real. It wasn't much, but it was enough to carry me through the day, Friday evening, I landed in Raleigh, the air thick with pine and memory. I checked into a quiet hotel just outside Cary, no frills, just a clean room and a view of the highway. I steamed my blazer, laid out the envelope with the Grand Canyon tickets, and tried to steady my nerves. I wasn't here to start a fight, but I wasn't here to hide either. Sullivan's Grill, the restaurant for Mom's dinner, was exactly as I remembered from my high school prom. Red brick exterior, warm lights, the faint hum of a jazz piano. I arrived just past 7, my heels clicking against the pavement. The hostess hesitated when I gave my name, scanning her list like she'd missed something. Backroom, private party, she finally said, pointing left. Laughter hit me first, then the clink of glasses, the murmur of a room full of people who hadn't noticed I was missing. I stepped inside, and the noise faltered, like a record skipping. Mom sat at the center of a long table, glowing in a sapphire dress, surrounded by cousins, neighbors, and church friends. Dad was beside her, arms crossed, face set. Claire sat to her left, her boys fidgeting with napkins. At the far end, Nathan watched quietly, his water glass sweating in his hand. All eyes turned to me, some curious, some uneasy. Dad broke the silence, his voice sharp with that familiar edge. Well, look who decided to crash the party. I didn't bite. I walked straight to Mom, slow and deliberate, and placed the envelope in front of her. "Happy birthday, Mom," I said softly. "I hope it's everything you deserve." She looked at the envelope, then at me, confusion flickering in her eyes. Her fingers brushed the paper, hesitant, before she opened it. Her breath caught when she saw the tickets. "The Grand Canyon?" she whispered, like she couldn't believe I'd remembered. "You said you wanted to see it someday?" I said. Thought it was time. Her eyes welled up, her hands trembling as she held the tickets. The room was silent, heavy, until Dad spoke again, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "Always gotta make a scene, don't you, Olivia?" Before I could respond, Nathan stood, calm but firm, his chair scraping lightly against the floor. "She didn't make this about her," he said, looking straight at Dad. "You did." Heads turned. A cousin leaned forward. Claire's fork froze on her plate. "That's Olivia Anderson," Nathan continued, his voice steady. "Co-founder of PathPulse, one of the top logistics firms in the country. I took a job there because of her. She's not just successful, she's respected. And you shut her out." The air shifted, like a tide turning. Nathan glanced at Claire, then back at the room. "Family's supposed to grow, not push people away. Olivia didn't leave you. She built something incredible, and you all benefit from it, whether you admit it or not." He sat down, the silence thicker now, but different. It wasn't just tension. It was truth. Settling in, Mom clutched the tickets, her eyes locked on me. Claire stared at her plate, her face pale. Dad didn't speak, his wine glass untouched. I'd come to be seen, and for the first time, I felt they couldn't look away that I left the dinner without staying long, my heels echoing as I walked out. No one called after me, and I didn't expect them to. Back at the hotel, I ordered a burger from room service and opened my laptop, checking PathPulse's latest metrics to ground myself. The numbers were solid. Our new models were outperforming projections, but my mind kept drifting to Mom's face, the way her hands shook holding those tickets. I didn't cry, but I felt the weight of the night, heavy and unresolved. Later that evening, the hotel phone rang. The clerk's voice was soft. "There's a woman here for you. Says her name's Ellen." My heart skipped. I told them to send her up. When I opened the door, Mom stood there, clutching a Tupperware container wrapped in a checkered towel. "Peach cobbler," she said, almost shyly. "Your favorite." I let her in, and she set the container on the desk, glancing around the room like she was seeing me for the first time. "You always kept things tidy," she said, her voice small. I smiled faintly. "You always baked too much cobbler." We sat, the silence awkward, but not cold. She unwrapped the container, the sweet smell of peaches filling the room. "The Grand Canyon," she said finally, her fingers tracing the edge of the Tupperware. "You remembered that?" "Hard to forget," I said. "You talked about it every summer, over iced tea on the porch. She nodded, her eyes distant. I didn't know how much you were carrying, Olivia. All these years building this a life. I should have asked more. I swallowed hard, the knot in my chest loosening just a bit. No one did, I said, not accusing, just honest. I thought you didn't want to know. She looked down, her hands folding in her lap. We tried to keep you small because it was easier for us. That was wrong. Her voice cracked, and I saw the weight she carried too, not just for me, but for Claire, for Dad, for the family she tried to hold together. We didn't hug or cry. We just talked. About the Grand Canyon cruise I'd planned, about Pathpulse, about the team I led. She asked questions, real ones, like she was finally seeing the woman I'd become. When she left, she squeezed my hand and said, I'd like to see Austin sometime, if that's okay. Anytime, I said, and I meant it. 4 days later, my phone buzzed while I was on a call with a client. Claire's name flashed on the screen and I froze. I let it go to voicemail, unsure if I was ready for whatever she had to say. When I listened later, her voice was different, less guarded, more raw. Olivia, it's me. I don't know why I'm calling. Maybe I do. Can we talk? I called her back that evening, sitting on my hotel balcony, the Raleigh skyline flickering in the distance. She didn't bother with small talk. Nathan told me everything, she said. Not just what he said at the dinner, but how he sees you, how you lead, how you carry yourself. He said you're strong. I didn't know. I stayed quiet, letting her words settle. I always thought you leaving was you saying we weren't enough, she continued. Like Carry Me, the boys, we were too small for your big life. But Nathan said you didn't abandon us. You were surviving, building something. You thought I left to prove a point, I said, my voice steady but soft. I left because I had to. It wasn't about you. She exhaled, like she'd been holding her breath for years. I resented you for changing when I couldn't. It made me feel less. Her voice broke. But I'm proud of you, Olivia. Not just for Pathpulse, but for not making me feel small, even when I tried to do that to you. I felt a lump in my throat, but I didn't interrupt. She said Mom wanted to visit Austin, then added, maybe I do too, if you're okay with that. You're both welcome, I said. Always. Before she hung up, she said, I'm sorry, Olivia. And I'm proud. It wasn't everything, but it was enough. For the first time, I felt like the wall between us might not be permanent. When I checked out of the hotel the next morning, the front desk handed me an envelope. My name was written on it in Dad's precise handwriting, the kind he used for inventory lists at his hardware store. No return address, just a single sheet inside. I waited until I was back in Austin, in the quiet of my apartment, to open it. Olivia, it read, you turn out different than I thought. Maybe better. I didn't know how to see you, not the way you are now. Mom says you're building something real, and I believe her. I mistook your drive for defiance. Turns out it was vision. I don't know how to say sorry, but I'm trying. No signature, just his words, plain and unadorned. Like the man himself, I read it twice, then tucked it into my desk drawer. It wasn't an apology, not fully, but it was more than I'd ever gotten. Dad had always seen my ambition as a rejection of his world. Hardware stores, Sunday dinners, small-town pride. To him, my leaving was a betrayal. But now, maybe he saw it wasn't about him. It was about me becoming who I was meant to be, that I didn't call him. I didn't need to. That letter, sparse as it was, felt like a door left ajar. Not wide open, but enough to step through someday. A few summers later, I stood in the backyard of my new home in Austin's Hill Country, the air thick with cedar and dusk. The house wasn't grand, just a single story with wide windows and creaky oak floors, but it was mine, bought with years of late nights and big bets. The view stretched toward rolling hills, the kind that made you feel like the world was holding its breath. On move-in day, my team showed up with a gift, a framed print of a quote I'd tossed out during a late-night coding session, half delirious from caffeine. Build something so good they can't ignore you. It hung above my desk, next to a small post-it note from Nathan, his handwriting neat. She's my boss. I never asked who saved it. I just knew it mattered. When Mom turned 65, we celebrated at my place. String lights twinkled overhead, jazz played softly, and Claire brought a chocolate cake, her boys chasing fireflies in the yard. Nathan ran a slideshow of old family photos, his quiet humor keeping things light. Dad sat in a lawn chair, quieter than usual, watching the evening unfold. As the night wound down, he approached me, hands in his pockets, eyes softer than I'd ever seen. He handed me a faded photo, me at 11, stacking boxes in the garage, pretending to run a store. On the back, in his handwriting, "Always knew you'd build something." We didn't say much, just stood there, not strangers but not fully family either, just two people seeing each other clearly for the first time. I didn't come back to carry, to be forgiven. I came back to show I'd never really left. I'd built a life, a company, a home. Not to prove them wrong, but to prove myself right. And in the end, they saw it. Not all at once, not perfectly, but enough to owe everyone who's followed this story. Thank you. You've walked with me through silence, showdowns, and small victories. If this hit home, if it stirred something you've carried too long, drop a word below, I'll get it. Hit subscribe, and let's keep telling stories of grit, growth, and coming home to yourself. Keep building your truth, and I'll see you at the table.